A very warm welcome to the show. Thank you very much for joining us. You're watching Smart 24 TV, and we do drive your business. My name is Anthony, and I am your host. Now, today is a Tuesday, and of course, this is the second day of trading. This is the second day of business here at Smart 24 TV, and I'm very glad that you've chosen to join us on this wonderful show. This is Financial Markets. We mainly focus on investment in different financial markets, but particularly the stock exchanges around Africa, and particularly starting from home, of course, Uganda Securities Exchange, looking at the daily trading, what happened during the previous day, and what we are expecting in the days to come, so you can be able to make informed decisions as you invest. Remember, knowledge is the basis of investment. You cannot invest unless you have knowledge. And you will only find that at Smart 24 TV, the only station dedicated to business in Uganda and in East Africa. And of course, with your host here, Anthony. Now, remember to follow Altex East Africa. This is the biggest player in this show. Altex East Africa is a stock exchange, private, of course, started in 2017 and licensed by the Capital Markets Authority. The company does carry out trade, especially in the treasury bond market. If you are new to this show and probably wondering what the treasury bond market is all about, it's just as simple as lending to government. And the treasury bond market has become very famous, especially us who are living in times of inflation and so many other financial woes. Other investments look a little bit more volatile than this particular one, the treasury bonds. And so Altex East Africa found this very field interesting and got you a way to access it in the easiest and most convenient way using your mobile phone. Today you can dial *292#, and following the prompts you can first of all register and be able to open an account with Altex East Africa. Secondly, you can be able to buy or sell treasury bonds at the best interest rates. At the best interest rates. And I'm talking about the best interest rates on the secondary market. As per the bonds market, we do have the primary and the secondary market. And Altex East Africa is mainly focusing on the secondary market, where you can be able to buy bonds and sell them at the best interest rates in the land. Now, you can also be able to start your trading in exchange traded funds on the treasury bonds in East Africa, in Kenya, in Uganda, and Tanzania. You can rotate around all these. And exchange traded fund actually gives you more leverage because you have access to all these bonds with any amount of money that you have, starting from 15,000. They can invest in all these other instruments at once. So there you are safer, and of course the return comes in with probably a bigger and better way for you as an investor in the exchange traded fund. Altex East Africa is the #1 private stock exchange that opens its markets at 15 minutes past 8 a.m. and closes at exactly 15 minutes past 3 p.m. East African Standard Time. Altex East Africa, do something new. Now I'll get into, of course, the market analysis for Monday, today being a Tuesday. Markets are open, of course, but we are going to base our discussion on what took place yesterday, so we can look ahead of today and see which decisions we're actually going to make on the stock exchange. And generally looking at Africa, we had a couple of gainers and losers, but mainly the exchanges performed much better on the first day of trading in the second week of the year 2023. Now, looking at Ghana Stock Exchange, it's been stuck for a while where it is at right now, and nothing moved in their all-share index. As well, looking for the Johannesburg Stock Exchange all-share index, the J203 as well, you're seeing that they appreciated by over 1,400 points. Pretty much better start for the week this year. Nairobi Securities Exchange unfortunately did not surface amongst the gainers based on their all share index. They lost about 0.16 points on their all share index, which is also the benchmark of performance at the Nairobi Stock Exchange. The Nigerian Stock Exchange gained 470 points, implying that they had a better day as well of trading on the African continent. Zimbabwe had a good day as well with 292 points added to their their all share index. Probably one of as well the best performances they have had as well for the day, for the year. Uganda Stock Exchange had a wonderful first day of trading in 2023, especially good for the local stocks here at the Uganda Securities Exchange, or the domestically listed companies at the Uganda Stock Exchange. Currently, looking at the all-share index, the index appreciated over 8.17 points, and this was a 0.67% appreciation, closing at around 1,223.38. Now, based on the weekly performance, it implies that the all-share index has gained about 0.79%, and a 4-week performance has also witnessed a gain of 1.12%. Yet an overall year-to-date gain of 0.89% has also been registered. A little good sign of good hope that probably the year 2023 will present better stock markets for its investors. Looking at also the all-share, rather the local company index, and this one tracks the aggregate performance of the local or domestic stocks. Of course, this one appreciated much more aggressively with about 1.97% appreciation, closing at 276.38 points. Now, this makes a 1-week gain of about 1.39% and a 4-week gain of 1.44% on the local company index at the Uganda Securities Exchange. Yet the year-to-date gain is currently as well 1.36%. A good day at the Uganda Stock Exchange. Will this be sustained? I have no idea, but let's see. Of course, getting to look at the details on who actually moved the market, who are the top gainers and who are the biggest losers for the day. Probably that will answer that question. Looking at the aggregate trading here, in aggregate we had 3 USE listed equities participating in trading. Now, this meant that the day ended with 2 gainers and absolutely no losers at all. The 2 gainers were Stanbic Bank Uganda at 4.79% appreciation in price, up to about 21.0 Ugandan shillings. Now, remember, Stanbic Bank Uganda started last year with over 26 Ugandan shillings and closed it at 20 shillings, making a very huge year-to-date loss. But it seems the year 2023 is starting on a positive note for the company that has been well known for being good at issuing dividends and having a consistent policy there, even during a time when a Bank of Uganda actually halted financial institutions from issuing dividends, as this was geared towards capital reservation after the COVID-19 pandemic that saw many financial institutions struggle. Regardless of this, the company issued a dividend of over 100 billion. That is 50 billion for the year 2021 and 50 billion for the year 2020. That was last year in 2022. Definitely this year we are expecting more, even more from the company. That actually sustained a good, when you look at their financial reports for last year, they did a very wonderful job making one of the biggest profits amongst the financial institutions in Uganda. That means a lot for Stanbic Bank Uganda. And currently the company's share price is standing at 21.0 Ugandan shillings per share as well on the East African market. The MTN Uganda company as well did appreciate by 2.27%, and this was to close at 184.08 Ugandan shillings. This is very, very interesting. For the first time, we have the biggest movers rather, coming up on the top gainers list. Something which is really, really encouraging for the market. When we talk about these movers, these are people that, these are companies that have been able to participate in trading. And usually we've seen that the gainers and the losers sometimes, or in most cases, are cross listings, where those price movements are basically not based on demand and supply of their stock. In other words, people did not choose to buy these shares at these prices so that they can move. It's actually market conditions like the foreign exchange rate and inflation and so many others outside the demand and supply that do lead to those movements. But yesterday was a different case. MTN and Stanbic were the biggest movers and henceforth the biggest gainers for the day. Quite a great surprise, I must say. We haven't seen this in a very long while. But yes, it did happen, and I'm very, very, very excited for these two companies. MTN Uganda in particular had the biggest share of the equity that was traded yesterday, with over 1,286,963 shares that were traded, leading the company to the 184.08 Ugandan shillings share price from 180 at the beginning of the day. Stanbic Bank Uganda still had a good day as well, from 20 to 21.0 Ugandan shillings, registering a 950,776 shares volume there on the market. Umeme came in the third place in terms of movement, with over 111,148 shares that were recorded, and the company closed their day with 280.0 Ugandan shillings being the movement that they witnessed. A quite wonderful day of trading, especially for these local or domestic stocks, something we haven't seen in a little bit of a while here in the Uganda Stock Exchange, but actually did come to happen as we, of course, analyze this data. Now, getting to look at Stanbic Bank Uganda, basically this rise in a price back to 21.0 Ugandan shillings after the 950,776 shares that were traded. Currently, the company's market capitalization is still maintained at 1.07 trillion Ugandan shillings. This makes about 5.11% of the entire Uganda Securities Exchange equity market. Now, currently this company closed last year with a price of 20 shillings, and appreciating to 21 shillings, the company has recorded about 4.8% gain in their share price from their previous closing of 20.04, or close to 20 shillings. Stanbic Bank Uganda is still the #1 most traded on stocks as per the last quarter of 2022. And looking at the last 3 months, from October the 7th to the 9th of January, which is yesterday, the company has traded a total of 61.8 million shares, valued at 1.3 billion Ugandan shillings over the period, with an average of about 981,711 traded shares per session. This volume also realized a volume high of over 53 million shares that were traded on the 20th of October in the same period. Now, daily activity here shows that on the 9th of August, having the 950,000 shares, they did as well record on the 6th of on the 6th of January about 104,700 shares, and on the 5th as well about 107,600 shares. And looking back in last year, 28th of December, a big volume here of about 800,000 which was recorded. So generally speaking, the company is trying to maintain momentum, though slightly declining in the volumes here from the 800,000 to averaging about 100,000. So of course this 950,000 volume came in handy on the last day of trading yesterday. And well, Stanbic Bank has put up a good fight, and I would definitely go all in. For one investor, even novices, I would advise to get into Stanbic Bank. Definitely, you will not regret. Good dividend policy, good company, a very wealthy experience in financial management, and a very wonderful, kind of investment. Because when you look at Stanbic Bank, they now currently also have the Standard Bank Group Securities, which is a subsidiary of the company, and this can help you be able to buy shares. So it's a stock brokerage firm. So definitely, I would go all in for Stanbic Bank Uganda currently, with the current atmosphere that we are seeing on the Uganda Securities Exchange. Away from Stanbic, MTN as well looks pretty good in 2023, starting off there with the biggest volume for the year so far. Generally speaking, MTN Uganda got listed last year but one on the 6th of December. And since then, the company has about 4.12 trillion Ugandan shillings worth of market capitalization, making the company the second most valuable on the stock exchange, which is representing about 19.6% of the entire 20 trillion market capitalization on the Uganda Securities Exchange. Yesterday, a very great day for MTN. They gained about 4.08 shillings up to 184.08 shillings, a 2.27% gain on the company's stock price. And now traded volume currently stands at 1.29 million shares that were recorded yesterday in a volume that yielded about 237 million Ugandan shillings. That's how strong MTN Uganda is coming back in the year 2023 at over 237 million traded in a single day. I'm telling you, this is real business at MTN Uganda. Now, with the market capitalization of 4.12 trillion, the company has over 22.4 billion shares. So there's enough for everyone. And you can see with these volumes of over 1.29 million, people are willing to trade these shares. There's a lot of demand, there's a lot of supply. So really the sky is the limit for MTN Uganda. Now, recently MTN is performing quite well in the year 2023. As I've told you already, they began the year with about 180.0 Ugandan shillings and have so far gained the 2.27% that we are talking about on their stock price. Now, the performance of the stock in as regards the volume, it's the third most traded on stock in terms of volume, and in the last 3 months they have traded about 16.4 million shares on the market. Now, of course, comparing that with Stanbic is a little bit less, but then in terms of turnover, MTN outdoes Stanbic with over 2.96 billion Ugandan shillings over the period worth of market capital, rather worth of the turnover that has been traded in the last 3 months. A volume high of 9.89 million shares was achieved on the 3rd of January within the same period. And when you look at this volume, it's the biggest volume they have had this year so far, and still the biggest volume in the last 3 months. Very, very promising fact there on MTN Uganda. With this kind of performance, definitely 2023 will be a year for MTN. Remember last year, Airtel Uganda, another very, very prominent, well-established telecommunications company here in Uganda, was meant to list in the month of December, but unfortunately they say they were unable because of the current market conditions and because of the UCC Amendment Act of 2020. Every telecommunications company is required to list at least 20% of its stake on the public stock exchange, and Airtel had to actually be able to fulfill this by last year, but they were unable and actually requested for a postponement, which they were granted until 2023. Hopefully they will get listed this year, but currently MTN enjoys the only telecommunications port on the Uganda Securities Exchange, which is of course giving it an advantage because not much is there to be competed for sector-wise. But definitely if Airtel lists, there would be some kind of noise on the stock exchange over telecommunications companies as well. That's the trading, my friend, from Stanbic Bank Uganda and MTN Uganda. We're going to take a very quick breather and return with Wumeme as well, wind up the trading on the Uganda Stock Exchange, and then dive into the Kenyan market and other stock markets around the world. My name is Anthony. You're watching Smart 24 TV. We drive your business. Stay with us.
Smart 24, driving business.
The taste of Uganda in a new international park.
Sebo oba nyabo olirandira odi oba oyina ekifo ekipangisibwa URA ekujjukiza okwewandiisa ofune ennamba ey'omusolo eyitibwa tax identification number abasinga gye mumanyi nga TIN. Ennamba eyo ejja kuyamba okwanjula n'okusasulirako omusolo. Tusima balandiroodi abaamala edda okwewandiisa n'okusasula omusolo gwabwe, era tukubiriza abo bonna abatannaba kwewandiisa bakozese akaseera kano beewandiise, tukolere wamu okulaakulanya eggwanga lyaffe.
Uganda Revenue Authority, developing Uganda together.
Smart 24, driving business.
Welcome back, and thank you so much for of course staying on Smart 24 TV, where we drive your business. My name is Anthony, and I am your host. I hope you're having fun, and wherever you're watching from, remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel at Smart 24 TV for more content like this. And this is, of course, a business channel where we focus 24/7 business. We mean business, we drive business, and we are all about business in Uganda, in East Africa, and the globe as well. So if you want to keep updated on the business matters in the market space, in the goods space, in the travel and transport and logistics, you must stay tuned on Smart 24 TV, the only station that gives you business and means business, as we, of course, drive it through your life. Now, there is a lot more to be desired on the Uganda Securities Exchange, but I want to first remind you on the OTEX East Africa Private Stock Exchange. This is an exchange that is dedicated for investment. You can now invest in the treasury bond market as simply as doing a dial like *292#, and you're able to register with your national identification number, and you're able to buy or sell treasury bonds. Now, we're not talking about just the Ugandan bond market. We are talking about the East African market. OTEX is now accessible across East Africa with your mobile phone by simply dialing *292#. And when you do that, you're able to buy or sell treasury bonds at the best rates in the land. I mean, these guys have rates on all the sorts of classes of bonds that you may want. We do have the 5-year term treasury bond, the 6-year, the 10-year, and then for Kenyans, we do even have the 30-year bonds that are currently listed on the Nairobi Stock Exchange and Tanzania as well. So this is a great opportunity for you, my friend, to be able to make use of your savings and avoid the intermediary business, getting to go through stockbrokers and so many other people, the dealers. You can override all that. Simply dial *292# to transfer money off your mobile money wallet onto the exchange and be able to buy. And also, if you're selling and you want to actually receive money, you will get it onto your mobile money as well. OTEX East Africa doing something new. Now let's get into Umeme. Umeme, there's been a lot of interest in Umeme recently, definitely because of what we all know about. Umeme will be exiting Uganda in 2025. A public notice that was issued by the company onto the different websites, especially the website of the Uganda Securities Exchange, to the different stakeholders or the shareholders and the investors in the company, indicated that they will not be renewing their concession, the agreement on their concession period of over 20 years with which they signed with the government of Uganda. They said that they will not be continuing with this contract or renewing it, and so they'll be exiting in 2025, to be specific, on the 30th of March. Since then, of course, that news has brought a lot of interest, and demand has been brought on the Umeme stock here in Uganda, the Uganda Securities Exchange. But also, when you look at the Nairobi Securities Exchange, a lot has changed in as far as the price of Umeme stocks is concerned. So, getting to look at what happened last night, Umeme traded probably well on the Uganda Stock Exchange, about 111,148 shares, which of course yielded about 31.1 million Ugandan shillings at their current price of 280 Ugandan shillings. The stock at Umeme seems to be climbing and not to be coming down anytime soon. The company began immediately after the announcement of their exit to rise in price steadily, something that hasn't been reversed ever since it started. Starting off with 200 shillings, the company moved to 210 shillings earlier on in the month of December. Then they moved from 210 shillings to about 275 shillings, and currently counting up to 280 shillings per share. And I warned you, I told you, if you want to be part of the action at Umeme, whatever is going to happen in 2025, this is the time. I doubt this stock will come down. I highly doubt. Why won't it come down? Because let me tell you the truth. Basically, these people, Umeme, for example, when they are exiting, shareholders have a place. And the company, for example, when it's liquidating its assets, they will definitely put in place something for the shareholders. And usually that's something bigger probably than the investment, because they have to compensate and deal with the losses made. And there was an argument that why, after all, remain on the exchange and so on, and yet you're going to actually leave the country. Well, I mean, the exchange is private business, and shareholders are part and parcel of the company. So if at all that's okay with them, and they can still sustain the stock until the exit or liquidating of the company, definitely, why not? Why wouldn't we have such a move? So that's currently what the story behind Umeme's stock price rise looks like. But currently, when you look at the trading results for yesterday, the company's market capitalization has also been maintained at 455 billion Ugandan shillings, with about 2.16% of the entire equities market on the Uganda Securities Exchange. Women currently still ranks the 8th most valuable via market capitalization on the Uganda Securities Exchange. Currently, Wumeme is registering extremely good performance. Wumeme closed this last day of trading at 280.0 Ugandan shillings. After those rises, of course, I've been talking about from 210 shillings. Now, the company began the year with 275 shillings, and now at 280, it has since gained 1.82%, which is the third best year-to-date performance on the Uganda Securities Exchange. USE shareholders or investors can also be highly optimistic about the company's performance, which has accrued 33% of value in the past four weeks, just alone on the Uganda Securities Exchange, which is the best performance. Now, let's put this in perspective. You have 100 billion. If you invested in Wumeme last year with 100 billion, you have appreciated about 330 million. That's the 33%. This is exactly what we are implying. If you invested 1 million, you probably have 330,000 extra Ugandan shillings. Now, this is the beauty we are talking about, and this is the convenience that you can have on the market. Now, you can leverage this opportunity. It's still not too late, but at a certain point, it might be, because these prices probably are going to go up and above 300, and you don't want to get in at that time. So I am crying out to you again. Wumeme is up here for grab. Please take the chances. Do not waste the time, because time is going, and definitely 2025 is not any farther than you think. It's very much closer than actually you think or have ever thought about. The Wumeme company has traded a total volume of over 26.1 million shares in the past 3 months, which is the second busiest company on the Uganda Stock Exchange. Still a wonderful statistic there for the Uganda Securities Exchange and Wumeme as a company. Looking at the value from this period, they've had about 5.73 billion Ugandan shillings, which is also the biggest turnover on the market in the year 2023. Probably something you want to be part of. So Wumeme is providing you with pretty much good volumes, first of all, and good activity. There's a lot of demand for their stock currently, and you have to move quickly if you are not to miss out on this chance. On average, they trade close to 413,600 shares on every single day of trading. So definitely, even for those of you with big volumes, you can take advantage of this. Their highest volume has been about 6.79 million shares, which was achieved on the 24th of October 2022. Probably something that is still possible in the year 2023. That is Wumeme there for you. Now, of course, on average, we had about 2.348 million shares that were traded on the Uganda Securities Exchange, and these accrued a total market value of over 287 million 900,085 for you there on the market, implying a very good market improvement. Looking at the volume, about 149% improvement was registered in volumes on Monday compared to Friday, and 795% improvement in the turnover was also registered on the Uganda Stock Exchange. Definitely something we all want to hear. I hope this will be a good comeback for the Uganda Securities Exchange. 2022 was quite a hard year, hard on the all share index, hard on the big boys, hard on almost everyone on the exchange, even on the investors that do hold stake in the exchange. It was a very tough year, but we are hoping definitely 2023 will be a much better year, and there is no better way to prove it than looking at yesterday's trading and hoping this will be sustainable for the year 2023. And that's the trading we had for you from the Uganda Securities Exchange. Remember to follow USE at www.use.or.ug for more information on how to register, how to open an account. All that information can be found on the website. You can simply you can simply go online and look for www.use.or.ug, and you will definitely get your journey of investment started. First of all, by opening the SCD account, and secondly, by being, of course, in touch with a stockbroker who is going to trade stock on your behalf. Away from that, let's get to cross over to Nairobi and have a look at the trading that happened here in Nairobi Securities Exchange. Nairobi didn't look so good on their all share index. They lost pretty much some value, about 0.16 points. Let's get to look at what happened in detail here. Now, we had about 48 companies participating in trading, with 19 gainers and 16 losers on the market as well. Samia Africa this time around led the gainers with over 9.91%. Share price appreciation closing at 2.33%, 2.33 Kenyan shillings per share on the market. Sanlam Kenya gained about 9.82%, and East African Cables as well, tying at around 8.89%. Olympia Capital Holdings as well gained about 8.82%. On the losing side, on the other losing side, we had about Unga Group coming out last with an end of day price depreciation of 3.13% at 31.0 Kenyan shillings closing price per share. It was followed by Liberty Kenya Holdings at close to 1.93% loss, and the Nairobi Securities Exchange losing about 1.72%. Remember, NSE, unlike USE, is a demutualized company, and it demutualized in 2014 and got to list on the on its own stock exchange with over 627 Kenyan million shillings that were raised in the initial public offer there at Nairobi Securities Exchange. The company currently is counting losses of about 1.72% in stock price on the Nairobi Securities Exchange. I could put this to what, of course, the reports were like towards the end of the year 2022. The company lost over 6.13 billion US dollars in the year 2022, and this was due to the influx of foreign investors who were actually liquidating and moving out of the markets to go into the more attractive high interest treasury notes in the US and in Europe. Of course, this is due to inflation that has pushed many of those instruments upwards. Now, the company currently also looks at a contraction in the volumes, a little bit of contraction, and these are all problems that currently the company is struggling with to see that they maintain good activity in 2023. Looking at the top gainers here, top movers rather, Safaricom returned this time as the biggest gainer, mover at a 3.74 million shares volume, and Equity Group Holdings at a 1.34 million shares, and NCBA at 610,900 shares, whereas KCB Group had about 357,900 shares as well that were actually moved on the market. As I mentioned regarding the performance of the benchmark index, the NSE All Share Index, it paired about 0.16 points down to 126.69 points. This means that the index has lost 0.61%, in 1 week, and in 4 weeks or 1 month, about 1.2%. The year-to-date loss currently stands at 0.61%, implying things are not yet as good for Nairobi Securities Exchange in the year 2023, just like we had it in 2022. Hoping definitely things work out in the next coming days, but that is currently what's happening on the Nairobi Securities Exchange. Now, on average, we had a total of about 7.6 million shares in about 1,028 deals, and coming out with over 207.9 million Kenyan shillings as turnover. Compared to the previous NSE trading day, the 6th of January, the data shows 36% decline in the volume and 23% improvement in the turnover, but 10% decline in the deals there. The current market capitalization of the NSE stands at 1.97 trillion Kenyan shillings, and that's the trading from the Nairobi Securities Exchange. Now I'll rush through what we have on Johannesburg Stock Exchange, the biggest and the principal stock exchange in South Africa. Now, looking at the biggest movers here, the company currently has about 328 participants in trading, and the day ending with 226 gainers and just 78 losers. I think this is the best day for the Johannesburg Stock Exchange in the year 2023 so far. Over 328 companies participating, and the day ending with 226 gainers and just 78 losers. Now, Quantum Food Holdings came out on top of the game at 9.89% share price appreciation, closing at 5.0 South African Rand per share. It was followed by Merafe Resources at around 7.81% gain, and Novus Holdings at 7.04%. On the losing side, however, we had Finboard Group, who came out last with an end-of-day price depreciation of 16.36% at 0.46 Rand, South African Rand per share, and Trophy's Enterprises at 14.44% depreciation as well. The benchmark index definitely moved upwards about 1,483 points to about 78,342.7. Now, for the year 2023, the exchange has gained over 7.25% on their benchmark index and a 4-week gain of 5.08%, yet an overall year-to-date gain of 7.25%. And that's the trading from the South African Stock Exchange. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Our time is fast spent. I have to go right now, but I want to advise you to get to save. I know it's January, and very many things lie around January because of coming out of the festive season, and it's hard. But try to save some money, try to invest some, try to diversify. Diversification will keep you from the risk, and that's the best way to go in investment. My name is Anthony Sebale. Thank you so much for watching till this time and this moment. I'll catch you tomorrow, same time, same place. Goodbye for now. Have a lovely day.